Hi everyone, welcome back. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Gavin. Some of the most valuable lessons I learned about life came through the messy, complicated experience of dating someone who let other people make decisions about our relationship. The experience taught me about trust, manipulation, and the importance of choosing a partner who has the maturity to think for herself, even when her friends are whispering toxic advice in her ear. I first noticed Alicia during our sophomore year at State University in our intermediate psychology class. She sat 3 rows ahead of me, always perfectly put together. I found myself looking forward to her contributions to class discussions. For the better part of 2 years, I tried every reasonable approach I could think of to get Alicia's attention. I would arrive early to claim a seat near hers, hoping for opportunities to start conversations before class began. I found excuses to cross paths with her around campus. Each attempt was met with polite but distant responses that made it clear she wasn't interested in anything beyond casual classroom interactions. Alicia seemed to have perfected the art of being friendly without being available, engaging without being encouraging. She would smile when she saw me, but maintained careful boundaries that prevented our interactions from developing into anything more personal. I began to accept that she was simply not interested in dating me, despite what I interpreted as positive chemistry between us. What I didn't understand at the time was that Alicia's apparent lack of interest was actually a deliberate strategy influenced by her close circle of friends, who had appointed themselves as guardians of her romantic life. She had these 3 college friends who operated as a collective unit, making decisions together and presenting a united front on everything. They were once roommates back in freshman year and had developed the sort of intense codependent friendship that can be both supportive and suffocating. I would later find out that these 3 had analyzed my attempts to connect with Alicia and had unanimously determined that I wasn't exciting or socially impressive enough to be worthy of their friends' attention. They had convinced Alicia that dating me would be settling for someone boring and predictable, someone who would drag down her college experience rather than enhance it. Their advice was to keep me at arm's length and wait for someone more dynamic and socially connected to show interest in her. It wasn't until our senior year that Alicia finally seemed to reconsider her position, though I wouldn't learn until much later that this change of heart had more to do with her friends' evolving social calculations than with any genuine shift in her feelings toward me. Suddenly, I was no longer seen as the boring psychology major who wasn't worth Alicia's time, but as someone who might actually be a decent catch after all. The change in Alicia's receptiveness to my attention was surprising. Where she had previously deflected my invitations with polite excuses, she now accepted my suggestion that we study together. Our first study session led to coffee, which led to dinner, which led to our first real date within the span of 2 weeks. After nearly 2 years of patient pursuit, Alicia had finally decided that I was worth her time. Our relationship developed quickly once it began, with the intensity that often characterizes college romances that start late in the academic career. We spent most of our free time together, alternating between my apartment and hers, integrating our social lives and academic schedules. Alicia was intelligent, ambitious, and affectionate when we were alone together, and I felt like I was finally getting to know the person I had been attracted to for so long. However, Alicia's friend group remained a constant presence in our relationship, and their influence over her decision-making became apparent in both subtle and obvious ways. Alicia would frequently check her phone during our time together, seeking input from her friends about everything from what to wear on our dates to how she should interpret my behavior and comments. She seemed incapable of making even minor decisions about our relationship without consulting her friends first. I began to notice that Alicia's moods and attitudes toward me would shift based on whatever conversations she was having with her friends. After spending time with them, she would sometimes become critical or distant, questioning things about our relationship that had seemed fine just hours earlier. She would bring up concerns that sounded like they had been planted by outside observers, rather than arising from her own experiences with me. About 6 months into our relationship, I accidentally overheard part of a phone conversation between Alicia and one of her friends that revealed just how much her friends had been involved in our relationship from the beginning. Alicia was describing an argument we had recently resolved, and the friend was offering commentary about what it meant and how Alicia should respond. The conversation made it clear that every detail of our private relationship was being discussed and analyzed by Alicia's friends, who felt entitled to offer opinions and advice about situations they had only heard about secondhand. This discovery was unsettling, but I tried to convince myself that it was normal for college students to seek advice from close friends about their relationships. I reasoned that Alicia was young and inexperienced in serious relationships, and that her friends' involvement would naturally diminish as she became more confident in her own judgment. I decided to address my concerns directly with Alicia rather than letting them fester into resentment. When I brought up the topic of her friend's influence over our relationship, Alicia became defensive and dismissive. She insisted that she made her own decisions and that her friends were simply supportive confidants who cared about her well-being. She accused me of being jealous of her friendships and trying to isolate her from people who were important to her. The conversation ended with both of us frustrated and no clear resolution about the appropriate boundaries between our relationship and her friends' opinions. Despite these underlying tensions, our relationship continued to develop. We talked about our post-graduation plans, which included the possibility of moving to the same city and continuing our relationship beyond college. Alicia seemed genuinely invested in our future together, and I believed that her friend's influence would naturally fade as we transitioned from college students to working adults with more independence and mature priorities. It was during our 9th month of dating that I discovered just how deeply Alicia's friends had been orchestrating aspects of our relationship. I was spending a Saturday afternoon at Alicia's apartment, a routine that had become comfortable and familiar over the months we had been together. We had planned to spend the day relaxing. Alicia had gone to the kitchen to prepare snacks while I remained in her bedroom, checking emails on my laptop. Her phone was lying on the bed next to me when a notification appeared on the screen. Normally, I would never look at Alicia's private messages, but the preview text that flashed across her lock screen caught my attention. The notification was from the group chat Alicia shared with her close friends, and the preview text read, "Remember, tonight's the breakup test," followed immediately by another message that said, "Don't laugh when you do it." The casual, almost gleeful tone of these messages, combined with their content, made me feel like I had been punched in the chest. Without really thinking about the implications or the violation of privacy involved, I picked up Alicia's phone, unlocked it because I knew her password, and scrolled up to see more of the conversation. What I found was a detailed discussion between Alicia's friends about a plan they had devised to test my commitment to the relationship. They had convinced Alicia that she needed to determine whether I was genuinely invested in our future together or just going through the motions of a college relationship. The plan, as outlined in the group chat, was for Alicia to stage a fake breakup that evening, claiming that she didn't think our relationship was working and that she wanted to end things. Her friends had coached her on what to say and how to deliver the message in a way that would seem genuine and final. The goal was to observe my reaction. Would I beg her to reconsider? Would I fight for our relationship? Or would I accept the breakup calmly and walk away? According to the messages I was reading, my reaction to this fake breakup would reveal my true feelings about Alicia and our relationship. If I begged and pleaded, it would prove that I was deeply committed and couldn't bear to lose her. If I accepted the breakup without protest, it would suggest that I wasn't as invested as I claimed to be. The whole scheme was designed to manipulate me into revealing information about my emotional state that Alicia apparently felt she couldn't obtain through honest conversation. The group chat was filled with excited messages from her friends, offering suggestions about how to make the fake breakup seem convincing and speculating about how I would react. They were treating the entire situation like a game or an experiment, with my emotions and our relationship serving as entertainment for their group dynamics. The casual cruelty of their approach was breathtaking. They were encouraging Alicia to deliberately cause me pain in order to satisfy their curiosity about my feelings. What made the situation even more disturbing was the way Alicia had apparently embraced this plan. Her messages in the group chat showed enthusiasm for the idea and gratitude for her friend's creativity in devising the test. She seemed to view the fake breakup as a clever way to gain insight into our relationship rather than recognizing it as a manipulative betrayal of trust that would inevitably damage whatever genuine connection we had built together. I took a screenshot of the group chat conversation, though I wasn't sure at that moment how I intended to use it. My mind was racing through a combination of hurt, anger, and disbelief that the person I had been dating for months could participate in such a calculated deception. I felt like I was seeing Alicia clearly for the first time, understanding that her decision-making process was so thoroughly dominated by her friends' opinions that she was willing to risk our entire relationship to satisfy their curiosity. When Alicia returned from the kitchen with snacks, I was sitting exactly where she had left me, though everything about the situation had changed from my perspective. She seemed nervous and distracted, checking her phone frequently and glancing at me in a way that suggested she was preparing herself for something difficult. I realized she was gathering courage to execute the fake breakup her friends had planned for her. I made a decision in that moment that I would play along with Alicia's performance, not because I was unaware of what she was doing, but because I wanted to see exactly how far she was willing to take this betrayal. Part of me hoped that she would recognize the cruelty of what she was doing and abandon the plan, showing some respect for our relationship and my feelings. Another part of me wanted to gather enough evidence of her deception to confront her with undeniable proof of what she had chosen to do. As the evening progressed, Alicia's nervousness became more apparent. She kept checking her phone, presumably receiving encouragement and instructions from her friends, and seemed to be rehearsing what she was going to say. Her behavior was so obviously scripted and artificial that I wondered how she expected me to believe that her sudden decision to break up was genuine or spontaneous. Around 8 o'clock, Alicia suggested that we sit down on her couch because she had something important she needed to discuss with me. Her tone was overly serious and formal, completely different from a casual, comfortable way we normally communicated with each other. She was clearly following a script that had been prepared for her, trying to create the right atmosphere for the fake breakup she was about to deliver. Alicia positioned herself across from me on the couch, took a deep breath, and put on an expression of solemn regret that looked like she was auditioning for a role in a soap opera. She fidgeted with her hands, glanced at her phone one more time, and then delivered the lines her friends had prepared for her. She told me that she had been thinking about our relationship and had realized that it wasn't working out the way she had hoped. She claimed that we weren't compatible in ways that had become increasingly clear to her, and that she thought it would be best if we ended things before we got in any deeper. The performance was almost insulting in its transparency. Alicia paused after delivering her prepared statement, searching my face for the reaction she was expecting to see. I could practically see her friend's instructions playing out in her behavior. She was waiting for me to panic, to beg her to reconsider, to prove my devotion through desperate pleas for another chance. Instead, I decided to give Alicia exactly what she was looking for, but with the knowledge that I was consciously participating in her deception rather than being victimized by it. I let my face fall, allowed my voice to take on a tone of desperate pleading, and began begging her not to leave me. I told her that I couldn't imagine my life without her, that I would do anything to make our relationship work, and that I needed her to give us another chance. I made sure to let my voice crack with emotion, even allowing tears to form in my eyes to make my performance as convincing as possible. The entire time I was delivering this desperate plea, I was watching Alicia's face and noting how she seemed satisfied with my reaction, pleased that I was responding exactly as her friends had predicted I would. Alicia's phone buzzed constantly during my fake breakdown, her friends presumably cheering her on and offering real-time commentary about my performance. She was so focused on documenting my reaction for her friends that she seemed to have forgotten that she was supposed to be experiencing the end of a relationship that had supposedly meant something to her. The disconnect between her alleged sadness about our breakup and her excitement about successfully manipulating me was jarring and revealing. After allowing the performance to continue for several minutes, I decided it was time to reveal that I had been fully aware of what was happening from the beginning. I stopped mid-sentence during one of my desperate pleas, straightened up, and wiped the fake desperation from my face and voice. In a calm, controlled tone, I asked Alicia how she thought her performance had gone, and whether it had been as convincing as the script her friends had written for her. The change in Alicia's expression was immediate. The satisfaction drained from her face, replaced by confusion and growing panic as she began to understand that I had somehow discovered her deception. She stammered out a weak denial, asking me what I meant and trying to maintain the pretense that her breakup attempt had been genuine. I pulled out my phone and showed Alicia the screenshot I had taken of her group chat earlier in the day. Her face went completely pale as she realized that I had access to the detailed planning conversations between her and her friends, including their mockery of my expected reaction and their excitement about manipulating my emotions for their entertainment. I explained to Alicia that I had seen their messages about the breakup test hours earlier, and that I had chosen to play along with their scheme to see how far she was willing to take the deception. I told her that I had been curious whether she would recognize the cruelty of what she was doing and abandon the plan, or whether she would follow through with manipulating me for the amusement of her friends. Alicia tried to defend herself by claiming that the fake breakup had been intended as a harmless joke, something that she and her friends thought would be funny rather than hurtful. She insisted that she hadn't meant any real harm and that she had planned to reveal the truth once she had gotten the reaction she was looking for. Her explanations sounded hollow and desperate, clearly improvised attempts to minimize the severity of what she had chosen to do. I cut off Alicia's attempts at justification by pointing out that a joke is only funny when both people are laughing, and that deliberately causing someone emotional pain for the entertainment of others is not humor but cruelty. I explained that she and her friends had chosen to treat our relationship and my feelings as sources of amusement, showing a fundamental lack of respect for both me as a person and for the relationship we had supposedly been building together. Standing up from the couch, I told Alicia that she hadn't tested my loyalty with her fake breakup. She had tested my patience and my willingness to tolerate manipulation and disrespect. I explained that a relationship should be built on mutual trust and honest communication, not on games designed to trick one partner into revealing information that could be obtained simply by asking direct questions. I walked toward the door, telling Alicia that I needed time to think about whether I still wanted to continue a relationship with someone willing to participate in such calculated deception. I pointed out that if she truly had doubts about my commitment or feelings, the appropriate response would have been to discuss those concerns with me directly rather than staging elaborate tests designed by her friends. The last thing I said before leaving Alicia's apartment was that our relationship was over for the night, and that she should spend some time thinking about why she had felt the need to manipulate me instead of simply asking me about whatever concerns had prompted this entire situation. I told her that I would decide whether I wanted to continue our relationship after I had time to process what had happened and what it revealed about her character and judgment. I left Alicia sitting on her couch, stunned by the sudden reversal of what she had expected to be a situation entirely under her control. She had planned to manipulate my emotions and then reveal her deception as a clever test of my devotion. Instead, she found herself exposed as someone willing to betray trust and cause deliberate pain for the entertainment of her friends. For the next several days, I ignored Alicia's attempts to contact me. She called repeatedly, but I let every call go to voicemail. She sent numerous text messages, initially trying to downplay what had happened, and then gradually acknowledging the seriousness of her actions, as it became clear that I wasn't going to simply forgive and forget her betrayal. Alicia's messages revealed a progression of understanding about what she had done and its implications for our relationship. Her initial text tried to frame the fake breakup as a misguided joke that had gotten out of hand, something she regretted. But that shouldn't end our relationship. As days passed without any response from me, her messages became more desperate and more honest about the role her friends had played in convincing her to participate in the deception. When I finally responded to Alicia's messages after a week of silence, it was to tell her that I appreciated her apologies and her apparent recognition of what she had done wrong, but that I had decided to end our relationship permanently. I explained that trust, once broken in such a calculated and deliberate way, couldn't be easily repaired, and that I wasn't interested in trying to rebuild a relationship with someone who had shown such poor judgment and disregard for my feelings. I told Alicia that her promise to make her own decisions going forward was something she could demonstrate to whatever man she chose to date next, but that I had no interest in serving as a test case for her personal growth and maturity. The experience had shown me fundamental incompatibilities in our values and communication styles that couldn't be overcome simply by promising to do better in the future. Alicia's response to my definitive breakup was to increase her attempts at contact, calling and texting even more frequently, and desperately trying to convince me that our relationship was worth saving despite what she had done. She enlisted her friends to reach out to me on her behalf, though their involvement in the original deception made their advocacy for Alicia seem self-serving and insincere. The irony of Alicia's friends suddenly advocating for our relationship after having orchestrated the fake breakup that destroyed it was not lost on me. They had encouraged Alicia to manipulate and deceive me for their entertainment, and now they were trying to convince me to forgive her so they wouldn't have to face the consequences of their toxic advice and influence. From my perspective, the entire situation had revealed truths about Alicia's character and maturity that made a future relationship impossible. She had shown that she was willing to prioritize her friends' opinions over my feelings, to participate in deliberate deception for trivial reasons, and to treat our relationship as a source of entertainment rather than a meaningful connection between two people who cared about each other. More fundamentally, Alicia had demonstrated that she lacked the emotional maturity and independence necessary for a healthy adult relationship. Her inability to make decisions about our relationship without consulting and following the advice of her friends suggested that she wasn't ready for the kind of partnership I was looking for. The fake breakup had been a symptom of deeper issues related to her identity, independence, and ability to prioritize appropriately. The experience taught me valuable lessons about the importance of choosing a partner who has developed their own sense of judgment and isn't easily manipulated by outside influences. Alicia's willingness to follow her friend's advice, even when it involved betraying my trust and causing me deliberate pain, showed that she prioritized group acceptance over individual relationships in ways that made her unsuitable for a serious commitment. I also learned about the importance of maintaining dignity and self-respect in the face of manipulation and deception. By refusing to accept Alicia's apologies and attempts at reconciliation, I demonstrated to myself that I valued honesty and respect in relationships and wasn't willing to compromise those standards for the sake of maintaining a connection with someone who had violated them so deliberately. Looking back on the situation years later, I believe I made the right decision in ending the relationship permanently rather than trying to work through the trust issues that Alicia's fake breakup had created. Relationships built on manipulation and deception rarely recover the foundation of mutual respect necessary for long-term success, and Alicia's actions had revealed fundamental character traits that would likely have created ongoing problems in our relationship. The experience also highlighted the toxic nature of Alicia's friend group and their influence over her decision-making. They had treated our relationship as entertainment, encouraging Alicia to risk something meaningful for their amusement and curiosity. Their involvement in orchestrating the fake breakup showed a level of selfishness and immaturity that would have continued to create problems for any relationship Alicia tried to maintain while remaining close to them. Most importantly, the situation taught me about the value of trusting my instincts when something feels wrong in a relationship, even when I can't immediately identify the source of my discomfort. Alicia's constant consultation with her friends and her willingness to prioritize their opinions over our relationship had created an ongoing sense of unease that I had initially dismissed as jealousy or insecurity. The fake breakup revealed that my instincts about her friend's negative influence had been accurate, and that I should have addressed those concerns more directly earlier in our relationship. The college years are often a time when people learn important lessons about relationships, loyalty, and the kind of person they want to become as adults. It also reinforced my belief that healthy relationships require two people who are capable of making independent decisions while still considering their partner's feelings and needs. In the years since college, I've often thought about Alicia and hoped that losing a relationship over her willingness to follow her friend's manipulative advice had taught her about the importance of developing her own judgment and prioritizing meaningful connections over group dynamics and peer approval. The experience ultimately made me more selective about relationships and more confident about ending connections that didn't meet my standards for honesty and respect. Sometimes the most valuable lessons come from situations that are painful in the moment, but provide clarity about what we want and deserve in our relationships with others.